The chandelier glowed above us like captured sunlight, scattering prisms across crystal glasses and silver cutlery. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life, our 25th wedding anniversary. The ballroom smelled of roses and champagne, filled with the laughter of people who had witnessed our journey, who thought they knew our story. I sat at the long head table, my hand resting on David's, my husband of a quarter-century. We had weathered storms, or so I believed. Financial struggles, failed pregnancies, the raw pain of loss. And beside me, smiling with her practiced ease, was my lifelong confidant, Mara, my best friend since college. The woman who had been with me through hospital corridors and moving vans, through each chapter of life. When the waiter poured her glass, Mara rose. Her eyes shimmered with something more than tears or wine. She held her champagne high, her gaze sweeping the crowd, and then locking on David. "Some promises," she said softly, "last longer than vows." The room erupted in polite claps and chuckles. Guests thought it was sentimental, sweet even. But I saw what no one else seemed to notice. The way David's lips twitched, not into a smile, but into recognition. A private language. For a second, I forgot to breathe. The applause faded, chatter resumed. David leaned in, pressing a kiss to my cheek. "Happy anniversary," he whispered. His words felt steady, but his hand trembled against mine. I glanced at Mara. She was still standing, still watching, her glass untouched. Only when she caught me staring did she sit, sliding back into her seat as though nothing unusual had happened. My fork scraped against porcelain. The noise seemed louder than the band's violin. Later, after the cake was cut and speeches delivered, I slipped away to the ladies' room. My reflection in the gilded mirror startled me. Not because of my age lines or the streak of gray I hadn't bothered to dye, but because my face looked like a stranger's. Tight, pale, eyes burning with a question I didn't dare say aloud. What did she mean? I pressed cold water to my cheeks. My wedding ring glinted under the faucet. 25 years. That's a lifetime for some. Could Mara's toast have been nothing more than flowery words? Or had she cracked open a door I was never meant to see behind? Back at the table, laughter echoed, forks tapped against dessert plates. Mara leaned close to David, her hand brushing his arm as she whispered something. He laughed, too quickly, too easily, and then he looked up and saw me watching. The party ended near midnight. Guests kissed cheeks, snapped photos, promised brunches. Mara lingered until the last. When she finally left, she hugged me tight, her perfume clinging to my dress like smoke. "Congratulations, love," she murmured in my ear. "You've built something beautiful." But when she pulled back, her eyes glistened, not with joy, but with pity. At home, the house was quiet. I slipped off my heels, my feet aching, but my chest heavier still. David went to shower. He hummed, a habit he only had when he was nervous. That's when Mara's clutch caught my eye. She had forgotten it on our side table. A small, elegant purse, the clasp shaped like a golden knot. I shouldn't have touched it. I know. But my hand reached anyway, fingers trembling. The purse buzzed. I froze. A phone inside. The screen lit up, a pinned chat thread. Before we tell her. The timestamp, 12:07 a.m. The message preview. After tonight, we can't wait any longer. My heart slammed in my chest. My fingers hovered above the screen, caught between fear and fury. "So before you get too comfortable," I whisper now, staring at you through this story, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. But only if you truly enjoy what I'm sharing here. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? Because my story doesn't end here. In fact, it barely begins. The question is, do I open that chat? Or do I wait for them to tell me themselves? I stared at the glowing screen in Mara's purse. Before we tell her. The words pulsed like a warning siren. My throat tightened. The logical voice in my head told me to close the purse, set it back where I found it, and pretend I'd never seen it. But another voice, older, sharper, more wounded, screamed, "No, read it, now." The phone buzzed again. Another message appeared. "David. She'll notice if we delay. Tonight was too close. Mara. Give me one more day. After 25 years, I deserve to explain it my way." My stomach flipped. My husband and my best friend conspiring in a private thread about me. The words weren't flirty. They weren't romantic, but they were secret. And secrets after a lifetime together cut deeper than any kiss. I opened the chat fully, my hands trembling. The thread went back months, maybe years. I scrolled past dozens of blue and gray bubbles, timestamps blurring together. Some were mundane, reminders about school fees, hints about family gatherings, but sprinkled between them were sentences that made my pulse race. She can't find out through anyone else. The records are safe with me. Always. We promised this day would come. Records, promises, this day. The bathroom door creaked open upstairs. Water pounded against tile. David's shower. I had minutes. My breath came in shallow gasps as I scrolled faster. A pinned note at the top of the thread read, "For later, clinic files, bank transfers, donor code." Clinic, donor, bank transfers. My knees buckled. I sat on the couch, clutch in my lap, the phone glowing like evidence in a trial I hadn't realized was happening. One message, dated exactly 25 years ago, caught my eye. "Mara, we're really doing this. She'll never forgive us if she finds out, but it's the only way to save her. David. She'll never know. Not until we decide." I clapped a hand over my mouth. The room spun. What had they done 25 years ago? The year I married David, the year Mara stood at my side as maid of honor. What needed saving? A shadow crossed the staircase. David's footsteps. I shoved the phone back into the purse, snapped it shut, and nearly dropped it when he entered the room, hair damp, towel slung around his shoulders. "You're still up?" he asked casually, but his eyes flicked to the purse on the table. Too quickly, too nervously. "She left her clutch," I said, keeping my voice even. "I'll give it to her tomorrow." He nodded, a little too fast. Yeah, tomorrow we went to bed. He fell asleep within minutes, his breathing slow, steady. But I lay rigid, staring at the ceiling, the words burning into my mind. After 25 years, we can't wait any longer. Wait for what? The next morning, I woke to find Mara's purse gone. David must have delivered it to her before I even opened my eyes. The knot of gold had vanished, along with my only proof that I wasn't imagining things. At breakfast, he poured me coffee, kissed my forehead, and asked about my schedule like nothing was wrong. But his hand trembled just slightly as he lifted his mug. I spent the day circling my house like a ghost, my mind chasing clues I didn't yet have. Records, clinic, transfers, donor. What connected them? By afternoon, I couldn't take the silence. I called Mara. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, love. Did I leave my clutch there?" "You did," I said tightly, "but it's gone now." "Oh?" Her tone was light, but I imagined her eyes flickering. "David dropped it by this morning. He's such a gentleman." The word made my skin crawl. Gentleman, as if they were a team. That evening, while David worked late, I searched the attic for our old boxes, photos, receipts, anything. I wanted proof. What I found was worse. In a shoebox labeled Tax 1999, tucked beneath faded receipts, was a folded printout. The header read, Westwood Fertility Center. The rest was a blur of medical jargon, but one line screamed at me. Egg donor program, confidential, and a handwritten note at the top, in David's unmistakable scrawl, keep safe. For later, my breath left me in one jagged sob. My mind reeled back to those painful years of infertility. Shots, hormones, negative tests, the endless cycle of hope and grief. Mara was there through it all. She drove me home from appointments when David was too busy. She held my hand when doctors shook their heads. But why would David keep donor records hidden for decades? Why would Mara be part of a chat called Before We Tell Her? That night, I confronted David lightly, fishing for reaction. "Funny, isn't it?" I said as we cleared dinner plates. "How sometimes best friends know more about us than we realize." He froze for a fraction of a second before replying, "Mara's just loyal. You know that loyal." The word twisted in my gut. When I finally lay in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, my mind played Mara's toast over and over. Some promises last longer than vows. Promises. To him. About me. Without me. I reached for my phone and typed a note to myself. Clutch messages. Clinic envelope. Records hidden. And beneath it, they're planning to tell me. But about what? So I'll ask you, the ones listening to my story. What would you do if your best friend and your husband kept a secret this big for 25 years? Would you rip the truth out of them, or wait for their version of it? Because the night was only the beginning, and the word donor would soon destroy everything I thought I knew. The envelope sat in my lap like a bomb. Westwood Fertility Center. Confidential. The paper was yellowed, edges curled from age, but the ink still sharp enough to pierce. I didn't open it immediately. My hands trembled too much. Instead, I stared at David's scrawl on the corner. "Keep safe. For later." Later? How much later? After 25 years of silence? I remembered those years all too well. The shots, the bruises on my belly, the calendar taped to our fridge, each square filled with reminders in Mara's neat handwriting. Day 12, blood work. Day 14, transfer. She was my chauffeur, my cheerleader, my nurse. While David traveled for work, Mara sat beside me in clinic waiting rooms, holding my hand so tightly my fingers went numb. I used to tell people she was my anchor, but anchors can also drown you. At last, I unfolded the envelope. Inside were forms, typed medical reports, numbers, percentages, and one line that made the room tilt sideways. Egg donor. Code M. Confidential. My stomach dropped. The letter M swam on the page. M. Mara. I pressed the papers against my chest as though hiding them from the walls. Could it be coincidence? Maybe M meant miscellaneous, medical, anything else. But my heart already knew. Downstairs, the front door opened. David's footsteps echoed. I stuffed the envelope back into the box, shoved the lid down, and kicked it beneath a stack of Christmas decorations. By the time he entered the attic, I was brushing dust off an old photo album. "What are you doing up here?" he asked. "Just nostalgia," I said, forcing a smile. "Looking at our early years." He reached for the album, flipping a page of smiling college kids. There was Mara, arms slung around my shoulders, David standing behind us both. We looked like a trio back then, inseparable. Funny how photographs lie. That night, I couldn't sleep. I crept back to the attic at 2 a.m, flashlight in hand. I reread the report until the letters blurred. Egg donor program. Donor M. I thought of Lena, our daughter. Her eyes had always been a little different from mine. Hazel instead of brown. Her cheekbones sharp where mine were soft. I'd brushed it off as recessive genes, quirks of inheritance. But now I saw Mara's face in hers. The next day, I drove back to the Westwood Fertility Center. The building was smaller than I remembered, a squat structure tucked between office parks. The lobby smelled of disinfectant and lavender, like every clinic in my memory. The receptionist barely glanced up. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm a former patient," I said, "from the late 90s. She frowned. "Our records are sealed after 20 years, ma'am. Unless you have a court order." I slid the envelope across the counter. Her eyes flicked down. For a moment, her composure cracked. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. It was in my house, I said. Tell me what code M means. She shook her head, lips pressed tight. I can't. I could lose my job. But when I leaned closer and said Mara's full name, her pupils widened. Just for a second. Enough. Driving home, my hands shook on the wheel, rage tangled with grief. Mara had sat beside me during every failed round, every sob on the bathroom floor. She'd wept when I wept, cheered when we finally heard a heartbeat. And all the while, she knew. She wasn't just my friend. She was part of my child. That evening, I set the envelope in front of David at the dinner table. Explain, I said. He stared at it, jaw tight. Where did you find this? In the attic. Where you buried it. His sigh was long, weary. I kept it because I knew this day might come. Donor M, I hissed. Is it Mara? His silence was louder than any confession. Finally, he spoke. I wanted to protect you. You were breaking, and I couldn't watch you destroy yourself. Mara offered. It wasn't an affair. It was science. A gift. My fork clattered against the plate. A gift? You call 25 years of lies a gift? He reached for my hand. I pulled away. That night, I dreamed of my daughter's first steps, her first words, her first day of school. In every memory, Mara hovered, camera in hand, bow in hair, cheering louder than anyone. She wasn't just a friend. She was a shadow mother. And now I couldn't unsee it. I woke before dawn, nausea twisting my stomach. I scribbled a note in my journal. Donor M equals Mara. David admits donor, calls it protection. 25 years of lies. Then I underlined the last line 3 times. I don't know if Lena is mine at all. And now I'll ask you, those who've been listening, if you discovered your best friend might be the hidden donor behind your only child, would you confront her directly? Or would you wait until your daughter finds out on her own? Because part of me knew this secret wasn't going to stay in the dark much longer. The house was silent when I slipped downstairs that night. David's steady breathing floated from our bedroom, but I couldn't sleep. Not with the envelope still burning in my mind. I sat at the kitchen counter, laptop open, light dimmed low. If Mara had been the donor, if she and David had kept this web of secrets alive for decades, there had to be a trail. Paper. Numbers. Something they couldn't bury with smiles. So I logged into our bank's old archives. Passwords I'd memorized years ago still worked. Rows of transactions appeared, stretching back decades. Most were normal. Mortgages, tuition, groceries. But then I saw it. 2:07 a.m. Transfer to Mara C. The label, consulting. Amount, $1,200. I scrolled further. Another at 2:14 a.m., same label, $900. Over and over, midnight payments. Always between 1 and 3 in the morning. Always labeled blandly. Consulting. For what? I clicked into the earliest ones I could find. The first was dated the year after Lena's birth. The notes column read simply, child wellness. My chest constricted. The amounts weren't random. They grew with time. Kindergarten, $500. Middle school, $1,000. High school, $1,800. Each milestone, the numbers spiked. I dug deeper, downloading records until my screen blurred. 24 years, hundreds of transfers. The total? Over $200,000. $200,000 quietly funneled from my husband to my best friend. I slammed the laptop shut, hands trembling. My mind spun. Was it hush money? Repayment? Or was Mara pulling the strings all along? The clock read 3:08 a.m. I leaned against the counter, staring at the dark window. My reflection stared back. Tired, furious, broken. The next morning, I placed the printed statements on the table. David glanced once, then looked away, as if the numbers were gnats he could swat away. What is this? I demanded. Consulting, he said flatly. You know Mara's helped us with things. Legal advice. School forms. Legal advice doesn't cost $200,000, I snapped. He rubbed his temples. You don't understand. Then make me understand. My voice cracked. Why have you been paying my best friend in the middle of the night for 2 decades? His chair screeched back as he stood. Because she earned it, he said sharply. Because without her, Lena wouldn't exist. Without her, we wouldn't have survived. The words hung heavy. His face hardened, then softened in regret. I meant she supported us. She was there when you couldn't be. She what, David? My voice was ice. She gave us her body, her eggs, her loyalty, and you paid her like a mistress you couldn't stop seeing? His silence told me enough. That evening, I tried to act normal around Lena. I cooked pasta, asked about her classes, laughed at her jokes. But every time I looked at her, I saw Mara's cheekbones, Mara's eyes, Mara's shadow. Lena noticed my distraction. Mom, are you okay? She asked softly. I forced a smile. Just tired, honey. But inside I screamed. Later that night, I dialed Mara's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm as always. Hello, love. I didn't bother with pleasantries. Why has David been paying you every month for 24 years? Silence stretched on the line, then a sigh. So you found the transfers? Yes, and I want the truth. Her voice didn't shake. The money was for Lena, for her health, her education, her safety. Things you never knew about, things David couldn't tell you. He wanted her future secure. Secure? My voice cracked. Or controlled? She paused. Then, after 25 years, I think you deserve the truth. Meet me tomorrow. No David. Just us. I hung up without answering. My chest burned. What truth could possibly justify 2 decades of lies? That night, I lay awake again, my mind chasing questions. Why the late-night transfers? Why label them so vaguely? Why hide them from me if it was all for Lena's sake? And most of all, why had Mara stayed so close, orbiting my life like a second wife, a second mother, a second shadow? At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Mara. Don't hate me when you hear it. I did it for you. I stared at the words until the screen dimmed. So I'll ask you, the ones listening to my story, if your best friend admitted to taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from your husband while standing by your side for 25 years, would you believe it was for your child's future? Or would you see it as betrayal wrapped in friendship? Because tomorrow I was going to meet Mara, and I had no idea if I wanted answers, or if I was terrified to finally hear them. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. Mid-morning sunlight poured through tall windows, glinting off spoons and half-polished glasses. I spotted Mara instantly. She always chose the corner booth, back to the wall, as though guarding her position. She waved like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't been receiving money from my husband for 2.5 decades. I slid into the seat across from her, the envelope heavy in my purse, my fury barely restrained. So, I said, are you going to tell me why my husband has been paying you more faithfully than he's ever paid the mortgage? Her smile faltered. She folded her hands, nails painted a deep red. Because, love, it was never about money. It was about keeping everything from falling apart. I slammed the envelope on the table. The cafe hummed around us, espresso hissing, plates clinking. Westwood Fertility Center. Donor code M, care to explain? Her fingers traced the edge of the paper, slow, deliberate. Then she exhaled, long and heavy. Code M, she said softly. That was me. My stomach lurched. Even though I'd suspected, hearing it out loud made the world tilt. You? My voice was a whisper, trembling. Yes. Her eyes locked on mine, unwavering. I was the donor. Lena Carey's My Blood Memories assaulted me. Mara holding my hand in sterile waiting rooms. Mara whispering encouragement when embryos failed. Mara celebrating when we finally heard a heartbeat. She hadn't just been there for me. She was there, inside my daughter, silently all along. I shook my head. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Her lips trembled. Because you were breaking and I couldn't let you drown. You wanted a child so badly. David came to me, desperate, terrified you'd fall apart. I agreed. I thought I was saving you saving me? Or stealing from me? My voice hardened. And the money? Was that gratitude too? It was support, she said quickly. He wanted to ensure I never regretted what I gave up. That I could help with Lena when needed. School, health, anything. It wasn't about payment, it was about responsibility. I laughed bitterly. Responsibility? You stayed in my house, held my baby, toasted my anniversaries. You were everywhere. And you never once thought I deserved the truth? Her eyes glistened. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting her, I leaned forward, fury boiling. Protecting me from what? From knowing my daughter isn't mine? From realizing my best friend is her biological mother? That's not protection, Mara. That's betrayal. Her hand twitched as though she wanted to reach for mine. I never tried to replace you. You're her mother. You raised her. Blood doesn't change that. Blood changes everything. I spat. The cafe noise seemed to fade, leaving only our ragged breaths between us. At that moment, my phone buzzed. A notification banner slid across the screen. DNA kit shipped, expected delivery. Tomorrow. I froze. I hadn't ordered it. Mara's gaze flicked to the screen, then back to me. She swallowed hard. What did you do? I whispered. Her voice was calm, but her hands clenched tight. She deserves to know. Lena deserves the truth, not 25 more years of silence. My chest caved. You mean you sent her a kit? Without telling me? I sent it for her scholarship application, Mara said quickly. They asked for health backgrounds, genetic markers. She'll find out sooner or later. Don't you think it's better she hears it now? While she's young enough to adapt, old enough to understand? My voice cracked. You stole my motherhood and now you want to steal my daughter's love. She shook her head. I gave her to you. Every moment, every milestone. You had them because of me. Without me, you'd have nothing. The words sliced through me like glass. I pushed back from the booth, hands trembling. You think this is love? This is ownership. You've been planting yourself in every corner of my life, making sure I could never escape you. And now you're going after Lena. Mara's eyes flared. I've been here because I care. Because David couldn't do it alone. Because you needed someone strong beside you. I laughed, bitter and broken. Strong? Number. Manipulative? Calculating. You've been waiting 25 years for this confession. And now you want me to thank you for it. The waitress dropped the bill, eyes flicking nervously between us. Mara signed it with steady hands, as though she hadn't just detonated my entire life. I stood, my chair scraping against tile. My legs felt weak, but rage pushed me forward. Stay away from Lena, I hissed. If you truly care, you'll let me tell her myself. Mara's final words followed me out the door. Be careful what you wish for. Some truths can't be told gently. I sat in my car, shaking. The DNA kit notification glared on my phone screen, a countdown to disaster. Tomorrow, Lena would spit into a tube and every secret would unravel. And now I ask you, the ones following my story. When David walked through the door that evening, briefcase in hand, I was waiting at the kitchen table with the clinic envelope spread open like evidence in a courtroom. He froze when he saw it. His shoulders slumped. So Mara told you, he said quietly. The words hit harder than a confession. Not what she told me, not whether it was true, just that she told me. Yes, I said. My voice was raw. She told me she's Lena's donor. That for 25 years you both carried this lie like some sacred pact. He set his briefcase down and rubbed his temples. I didn't want it to come out like this. How else could it come out, David? Through another midnight transfer? Through a scholarship DNA test? Or maybe during a toast at our 50th anniversary? He flinched at my words but didn't deny them. He sat across from me, folding his hands. Listen to me. We didn't do this to hurt you. We did it to protect you. You were fragile back then. Every failed round broke you more. I thought you'd shatter if you knew the truth. I laughed bitterly. So instead you built a marriage on lies? Lies wrapped in silence and hidden payments? His voice hardened. I saved us. I saved you. Mara stepped in because no one else would. Without her, there wouldn't be Lena. The name tore out of him like a shield. He always used her as the defense. For Lena, for the child, for our family. I leaned forward. You say you protected me. But did you ever ask what I wanted protection from? My own truth? My own daughter's DNA? Or just from knowing you trusted my best friend more than me? His jaw clenched. It wasn't about trust. It was about survival. Survival for who? I snapped. Me? Or you? Silence stretched between us. For a moment, I thought he'd finally admit it. That he'd leaned on Mara because she was stronger, more practical, more everything I wasn't in those years. Instead, he whispered, she was our solution. Not my lover. Not my secret. Our solution. And the money. It was gratitude. Gratitude. The word tasted like poison. I shoved the bank statements across the table. $200,000 worth of gratitude? You never bought me a diamond that big. Never gave me a spa day, a trip, a vacation without guilt. But Mara got quiet midnight transfers labeled consulting. Don't tell me it was just gratitude. His face flushed red. You're twisting this. No, I said, voice shaking. You twisted me. For decades he stood, pacing the kitchen like a caged animal. I thought we'd bury this. I thought we'd die with it. She promised. We promised. Why couldn't she keep her mouth shut? The fury in his voice startled me. Not at himself, but at her. At Mara. You mean, I whispered, you're angry she confessed? Not that you lied. Not that you destroyed us. Just that she told me before you did, he didn't answer. Which was an answer in itself. The next morning, Lena bounded into the kitchen, ponytail swinging, backpack slung carelessly. Morning, Mom. Morning, Dad. Her smile was so bright, so oblivious, my chest ached. Package came for me, she chirped, holding up the DNA kit box. Aunt Mara said it's for a scholarship app. Cool, right? I nearly choked on my coffee. David's spoon froze midair. He recovered first. You don't need that, sweetheart. Scholarships don't ask for DNA. Lena frowned. She said it was for health verification. Family records or something? She shrugged. Anyway, I'll do it after school. When she left, slamming the door behind her, I turned to him. This ends now. She cannot do this. She cannot decide when my daughter learns who she is. His voice dropped. Then you'd better be the one to tell her. Because Mara won't wait. That night, I lay awake beside him. His words replayed in my mind. She was our solution. It wasn't an affair. It was gratitude. Maybe he believed that. Maybe, in his mind, love and betrayal could coexist without touching. But in mine, they fused like acid and fire. I crept to Lena's room, watching her sleep. Her breath was steady, her hair fanned across the pillow. She looked like me when she was little. Soft cheeks, round nose. But now, at 17, she looked like Mara more every day. The line of her jaw, the flick of her smile, the way she raised one eyebrow when skeptical. How much of her was mine? How much was a lie I'd been asked to nurture? I sat at her desk and scribbled in my journal. David admits donor. Claims it was to protect me. Still refuses to call it betrayal. Lena's DNA test tomorrow. And then I wrote the question I dreaded most. If she chooses Mara over me, can I survive it? The pier was quiet at dawn, the sky painted in bruised shades of purple and gray. Seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries sharp and restless, like my thoughts. Mara stood at the far end, leaning against the railing, her hair swept back by the wind. She looked calm. Too calm. I walked toward her, each step echoing on the wooden planks. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. She didn't turn when I stopped beside her. "I knew you'd come," she murmured. I folded my arms, jaw tight. "You sent Lena a DNA kit. You crossed a line." She finally faced me, her eyes clear, steady. "I did what you couldn't. She deserves the truth." "The truth?" My voice rose. "Or your version of it?" Mara's lips trembled, but she didn't look away. "There's no version. There's only this. I was the donor. Lena is mine, biologically. And I stayed close because I couldn't stand the thought of her growing up without me near." The words sliced clean through me. "You chose to hide in plain sight?" "For 25 years?" I hissed. Smiling in my photos, cheering at birthdays, whispering in my kitchen, while holding on to the one secret that changes everything? Her voice softened, but her spine stayed straight. "I gave her to you, yes. I gave her because I loved you. You were drowning. You wanted a baby so badly, and I could help. So I did. You didn't help," I spat. "You planted yourself inside my marriage and called it love." Her eyes shone with tears. "You think I did this to hurt you?" "Number, I did it to save you. To save your family. My family." My throat burned. "Or your fantasy of one?" She flinched, then whispered, "You were so fragile back then. Every failure broke you. I couldn't watch you crumble. So I stepped in, quietly, willingly, and I stayed close to protect what we built." I staggered back, my heels scraping the wood. "Protect? You mean control. You've been controlling me, David. Lena, all of us. Every birthday, every holiday, every whispered secret. You made sure I never forgot you were there." Her tears finally spilled, because I wanted to make sure she was safe. That she had both of us, even if she never knew it. That she had my blood, your love, David's care. She deserved all three, all three? My voice cracked. "Do you hear yourself? You sound like you've been waiting for the day she'd choose you over me." The gulls screamed louder, my vision blurred. "Tell me the truth, Mara," I demanded. "Why now? Why the toast? Why the kit? Why after 25 years are you tearing this open?" Her answer was quiet. "Because I can't hide anymore. Because secrets rot families from the inside. And because she's old enough to understand. She deserves to decide who she is." My legs nearly gave out. I gripped the railing, knuckles white. "So you want her to decide between us? Between the woman who raised her and the woman who hid in my shadow?" Mara's tears sparkled in the early light. "No. I want her to know she has two women who love her enough to sacrifice everything." My laugh was jagged, bitter. "Sacrifice? You call this sacrifice? This is betrayal wrapped in silk." A silence stretched between us, broken only by the waves below. Then she whispered, "Don't make me the enemy, love. We wanted the same thing. A child, a family. We just took different roads to get there." I turned to leave, my chest hollow, but her final words stopped me cold. "She's starting to ask questions, you know, about why she looks different from you, about why her medical forms never match your history. If you don't tell her, I will. And when I do, I'll tell her the truth, that I gave her life, and you gave her love, and both matter." I staggered back to my car, her voice chasing me like a shadow. All the way home, my mind replayed her confession. I was the donor. I stayed close to protect you. I gave her because I loved you. It sounded noble, almost saintly, but underneath I felt the poison. She had bound me to her forever, tethered me by blood I could never erase. That night I sat at Lena's desk again. My journal lay open, pen shaking in my hand. Mara confessed. Claims she saved me. Stayed close to protect us. Says she'll tell Lena herself if I don't. And then, scrawled in uneven letters, what if Lena believes her more than me? The package sat on our kitchen counter when I came home from work. A slim cardboard box, shiny logo stamped on the front. 23 and Me Health and Heritage Kit. My heart stopped. Lena was already tearing the tape, her face bright with curiosity. Mom, look. This'll be fun. I can learn about my ancestry, my health risks, all of it. Fun. The word stung. For her, it was a game. For me, it was the match that could burn our lives to ash. Sweetheart, you don't need that, I said quickly, forcing a smile. Those companies just want your data. They'll sell it to whoever bids highest. Lena rolled her eyes. Mom, Aunt Mara said it could help with scholarship profiles. Some programs look at family health history. Of course Mara said that. David entered the room, briefcase still in hand. His eyes darted to the kit, then to me. His jaw clenched. Your mom's right, he said. It's not necessary. Forget it, but Lena was already scanning the instructions. Spit in a tube. Seal it. Mail it. Easy. That night, after she went to bed, I crept into her room. The kit sat on her desk, untouched but ready. I held it in my hands, tempted to toss it into the trash, to bury it in the backyard if I had to. But then a voice whispered, she'll just order another one. And she did. 2 days later, a replacement package arrived. This time she locked it in her backpack, daring me with her silence. Weeks passed. I tried to convince myself she'd forget about it. But one Friday evening, she came running down the stairs, phone in hand, face pale. Mom, she whispered, you need to see this. She turned the screen toward me. DNA results glowed in neat colored bars. Paternal match, 50%. David Patterson. Maternal match, inconclusive. Significant mismatch with reported mother, Doreen Patterson. My heart plummeted. What does that mean? Lena's voice shook. I tried to swallow. It means sometimes tests glitch. It doesn't always match perfectly. She shook her head, tears brimming. Mom, it says I don't share half my DNA with you. It says I'm not your biological daughter. How can that be? My lips trembled. Because there's something you weren't supposed to know yet. Her face crumpled. You knew? The front door opened. Mara's voice floated in, cheerful and warm. Anyone home? Lena bolted from the room, phone clutched in her fist. I followed, heart pounding. Mara stood in the hallway, arms open. Lena? Lena stopped, staring at her like she'd never really seen her before. Is it you? She demanded. Mara's smile faltered. Sweetheart. Is it you? Lena screamed. Are you my real mom? Silence. And then Mara nodded. The sound that ripped from Lena's throat was half sob, half scream. She dropped to her knees, shaking. I rushed forward, but she pushed me away. Don't touch me. You both lied to me. All these years. Mara crouched beside her, tears streaking her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted you to have everything. Your mother... I am her mother, I cried. Lena's eyes burned into me. Are you? Because this says otherwise, she held up her phone, results glaring. David arrived moments later, drawn by the noise. He froze at the scene. Mara holding our daughter, me standing apart, shaking. This wasn't supposed to happen like this, he whispered. Lena turned on him. You knew too? Of course you knew. How could you let this happen? His face crumpled. Because we thought it was the only way. We thought we were protecting everyone. Lena's laughter was bitter. Protecting who? Me? Or your perfect little secret family? Later, when Lena locked herself in her room, I stood in the kitchen staring at the shattered pieces of my life. Mara leaned against the counter, drained, pale. "She'll come around," Mara whispered. I spun on her. Don't you dare. Don't you dare stand there and pretend you've done her a favor. You've poisoned her life. You've poisoned mine. Her eyes narrowed. I gave her life. Don't forget that I slapped the counter so hard my palm stung. And I gave her everything else. Sleepless nights, first words, broken bones, college essays, everything. Don't you dare try to take that from me. But deep down, fear gnawed at me. DNA results were facts, and facts were powerful weapons. That night, I lay awake, listening to my daughter cry behind her closed door. For the first time in her life, she was unreachable. The following week, I drove to my mother-in-law's house. Not because I wanted comfort, God knows she'd never been my safe place, but because something in my gut told me she knew more than anyone. The air inside smelled of mothballs and lavender polish. Family portraits lined the hallway. David's graduation, our wedding, Lena as a baby. Each picture felt like a stage play where I'd been cast in the wrong role. She greeted me stiffly, lips pursed. Doreen. To what do I owe the surprise? I swallowed hard. I need to ask you something. About Mara. About the clinic. About Lena. Her eyes flickered just for a moment. She gestured toward the dining table. Sit. She brought out a leather-bound ledger, worn at the edges, the kind you'd expect an accountant to keep in the 1950s. She set it between us, the sound sharp, final. I always knew this day would come, she said. My stomach twisted. What is this? Her thin fingers flipped through the pages. Each line was neatly written. Dates, amounts, notes. Westwood Fertility Center. Paid. Private investigator, confirmed. Mara C., consultation. It was all there. Every payment, every arrangement. You kept records? I whispered. Of course, she said coolly. A family's legacy requires diligence. The words tasted like iron. Legacy? You mean control. You orchestrated this. She sat straighter. Doreen, you struggled. Your body failed again and again. Did you really think we'd risk the family name disappearing? My son deserved a child. A real chance, my hands clenched. So you handpicked Mara? My best friend? She was suitable, she said simply. Educated, healthy, strong lineage, and willing. The bile rose in my throat. You mean you wanted someone you could manipulate? Someone close enough to watch me break. Her lips curled. You should thank me. Without me, there'd be no Lena. No anniversary dinners. No legacy rage burned hot in my chest. You watched me suffer. You let me cry, bleed, ache. And all the while you knew. You let me think it was my miracle. It was your miracle, she replied, unflinching. You just weren't strong enough to face the truth. I wanted to scream, to tear the ledger into pieces, but my hands froze as I scanned another page. Guardianship petition. Draft. My heart stuttered. What is this? Her eyes narrowed. That was an option. If you became unfit. But it was never filed. The room spun. Mara and David hadn't just plotted donations and money. They'd considered taking Lena away from me altogether. Why? I demanded. Why would you plan to strip me of my child? Her voice dropped to a chilling calm. Because your fragility endangered her. We had to ensure Lena's stability. David needed someone strong beside him. If it wasn't you, it would be Mara. The law can be persuaded when it comes to the welfare of a child. My pulse roared in my ears. So you wanted me erased? She smiled faintly. I wanted the family secured. I stumbled out of her house, ledger pages burned into my memory. Outside, the air smelled of cut grass and gasoline. Normal, mundane, but my life had shifted into something monstrous. Driving home, my hands shook on the wheel. I saw Mara in every memory now, not as a friend, but as a planted seed. I saw my mother-in-law's cold calculations, David's cowardly silence, my own desperate blindness. When I reached home, Lena sat at the table scrolling on her phone. She looked up, her face guarded. "Where were you?" she asked. I swallowed the truth. Errands. Her eyes narrowed. "With Aunt Mara?" "No," I whispered. She set her phone down. I don't know who to believe anymore. I reached for her hand, but she pulled back. The sting was sharper than any ledger entry. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "believe this. I have loved you every day of your life. No secrets, no ledgers, no DNA can change that." Her eyes softened, just slightly. "But love doesn't erase lies, Mom." And she walked away. That night, I spread my journal across the bed and scribbled furiously. Ledger confirms MIL orchestrated donor choice. Payments recorded, PI hired, guardianship petition drafted. Plan to replace me existed. The morning after I found the ledger, Lena's room was empty. Her backpack was gone, her bed neatly made. Too neatly. I called her phone. Straight to voicemail. Panic clawed at me until an hour later a text appeared. I'm at Aunt Mara's. Don't worry, don't worry. She'd run straight into the arms of the woman who had been hiding in my shadow for 25 years. I drove to Mara's house, each turn of the wheel tightening the knot in my chest. Her home was bright, welcoming, filled with fresh flowers and soft rugs, the kind of place designed to soothe. And there, on the couch, sat Lena. A blanket wrapped around her shoulders, tea steaming in her hands. Mara perched beside her like a guardian angel. Lena's eyes flicked to me, cold, unsure. "Mom," she said stiffly. I tried to smile. "Sweetheart, please come home." Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question I'd dreaded, the one that left me breathless. "Because I wanted to protect you," I whispered. "Because I thought you deserved a childhood free of this." Mara's hand rested lightly on Lena's back. "She deserves the truth, Doreen." "Not stories, not silences," I snapped. "You don't get to decide that." "You had 25 years to step aside, to let me be her mother without interference. And instead, you've been here. Always here. Like you were waiting for this day." Lena flinched at my tone. "Stop yelling at her," she shouted. "She's the only one telling me the truth right now." The words stabbed deep. My daughter, the child I raised, the baby I cradled, the girl I soothed through nightmares, was choosing Mara's version of honesty over my lifetime of care. Tears burned my eyes. "Lena, please. I carried you. I raised you. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, that was me." She shook her head. "But my DNA isn't yours. My blood isn't yours." "It matters, Mom. It has to—" "No," I whispered. "What matters is love." Mara's eyes glistened, but her lips pressed into a firm line. "Love and truth aren't enemies, Doreen. They can live together. You don't have to fight me, fight her." She'd already won. Lena stood, her face pale. "I need time. I'm staying here tonight." "No," I cried, reaching for her hand. But she pulled away. The rejection hit harder than any slap. David appeared in the doorway. I hadn't even noticed him arrive. His eyes flicked between us, guilt etched in every line of his face. He didn't speak, didn't stop her, didn't choose me. I drove home alone, my steering wheel slick with tears. The house felt emptier than ever. Every corner whispered memories. Lena's first drawing taped to the fridge, her graduation dress hanging in the closet, her laughter echoing down the hallway. I collapsed at the kitchen table, staring at the ledger I'd stolen from my mother-in-law. My hands shook as I traced the words, guardianship petition. Was this the plan all along? To make me so fragile, so broken, that Lena would naturally drift to Mara? That night, David finally spoke. "She'll come back," he said softly. "She just needs answers." I glared at him. "She needs a mother who isn't drowning in lies. But you've made sure she doesn't see me that way anymore." He opened his mouth, then shut it. Silence was his weapon, and I was too tired to fight. The next day, Lena returned to grab clothes. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "please don't do this. Please don't let her replace me." Her voice trembled. "She's not replacing you." "But she's part of me, Mom. And I need to know her. I need to know myself." I reached for her, but she stepped back. The space between us felt like an ocean. When the door closed behind her, I collapsed to the floor, sobbing into my hands. I wrote in my journal, "Lena chose Mara." David silent. I'm standing alone. The knock came on a Tuesday afternoon. Sharp. Formal. I opened the door to find a courier holding a manila envelope. "For Mrs. Doreen Patterson," he said, handing me a clipboard to sign. My stomach tightened before I even opened it. Inside, legal papers stamped with the county court seal. Petition for expanded parental involvement. Petitioner, Mara Collins. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. The language was clinical, detached, but the meaning was devastating. Mara wasn't asking for custody, yet. She was petitioning to be recognized legally as Lena's biological contributor with ongoing interests. That meant access to health decisions, education records, even financial oversight if deemed necessary. In other words, a seat at the table I'd fought to hold for 17 years. David found me at the kitchen counter, the papers spread before me like shards of glass. "What's this?" he asked, reaching for them. I slapped his hand away. "It's what happens when secrets grow teeth." "Your best friend is suing me for my daughter." His face paled. He skimmed the documents, muttering under his breath. She said she'd never go this far." I laughed bitterly. She also said she was protecting me. Funny how her promises keep changing. That evening, I drove to Mara's house. I didn't bother knocking. I barged in, waving the papers like a weapon. "Legal recognition?" I spat. "You're filing petitions now?" "What's next? Custody? Guardianship? You've already drafted those once, haven't you?" Her face didn't flinch. "Doreen, calm down. This isn't about taking Lena from you. It's about giving her the rights she deserves. If she ever needs medical records, family history, genetic information, I should be there." "You're not her mother," I hissed. Her voice softened, but her words cut. "I am. You are too. She has two mothers. Pretending otherwise only hurts her." The audacity left me trembling. "You had 25 years to step aside gracefully. Instead, you stayed close, collecting moments, waiting for this. And now you want the law to validate your obsession." Her eyes hardened. "I want the law to reflect the truth." I slammed the papers onto her coffee table. "The truth is you betrayed me. And if you think I'll let you strip away what's mine, you're wrong. I will fight you." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "Then fight. But remember, courts look at biology and best interest. You may not have as much ground as you think." I stormed out, heart racing. My phone buzzed before I reached the car. A text from Lena. "Don't be mad at her. She's only trying to help me." The words blurred through my tears. The next day, I met with a lawyer of my own. Patricia Chen, sharp eyes, firm handshake, no patience for sentiment. She skimmed the papers, lips pressed thin. "This isn't a custody grab," she said. "Not yet. But it's the first step. If the court grants her recognition as a biological contributor, it opens the door for future claims. She's building a foundation." My chest tightened. "Can we stop her?" Patricia leaned back. "We can fight. But be prepared. Judges often sympathize with biological ties. You'll need to prove that expanding her role harms your daughter. That will require evidence. Emotional manipulation, financial control, anything that paints this as destabilizing. Evidence, ledger, transfers, secrets. My mind spun with all the pieces I'd uncovered, each one sharper than the last. That night, I confronted David. He sat on the couch, head in his hands. "Did you know she was filing?" I demanded. He shook his head. "She told me she was considering, but I didn't think she'd go through with it." "Because you thought she'd keep her promises? Like the promise to stay anonymous? The promise not to tell me? The promise not to use Lena as leverage?" He didn't respond. His silence was worse than lies. Later, I found Lena in her room scrolling on her phone. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "do you know about these papers Mara filed?" She froze. She told me. My throat tightened. "And you're okay with it?" "She's just trying to make sure I'm safe. If something ever happens to you or Dad, I need someone who knows my medical history." Someone connected to me. I sat on the edge of her bed. "That's what I'm here for. That's what I've always been here for." Her eyes flicked to mine, uncertain. "But she's part of me too. Why is it wrong for her to care?" The words sliced deep. When I finally collapsed into bed, sleep wouldn't come. My journal lay open on the nightstand, filled with frantic scribbles. Petition filed. Lawyer says it's groundwork for custody. Lena, supportive of Mara's involvement. David, useless. Patricia, my lawyer, warned me. Follow the money. Secrets usually live in bank ledgers, trust accounts, old signatures. So I dug. Our filing cabinet was a graveyard of manila folders, tax returns, insurance policies. Most of it was routine. But at the bottom drawer, wedged behind expired warranties, I found a folder labeled Education Fund. Lena. Inside, a trust agreement dated back to kindergarten. I skimmed, expecting relief. Proof that we'd planned responsibly for her future. But then I saw the signatures. Trustees, David Patterson and Mara Collins. No Doreen Patterson, no mother. My stomach flipped. When David came home, I slammed the folder on the counter. "Explain." He glanced down, jaw tightening. "It's just a trustee form." "Just? You gave Mara legal control over our daughter's education fund? Behind my back? 20 years ago?" His voice was maddeningly calm. "It was a precaution. If something happened to me, she could manage the account." I choked on bitter laughter. "Not me. The woman who raised her? The woman who sat up nights with fevers and homework and heartbreak? No, you gave it to Mara." His silence was answer enough. That night, I met Patricia again. She skimmed the papers, frowning. "This complicates things," she said. "It gives Mara a long-standing legal role in Lena's life. Courts will see that as stability, not interference. It paints her as a trusted guardian." My chest tightened. So all this time, they've been building a case. Every transfer, every signature, it was laying groundwork. Patricia nodded grimly. "It looks like it." I left her office shaking. Every memory of Mara's help replayed like a trap snapping shut. The night she stayed late filling out financial aid forms. The weekends she took Lena shopping for books, for sports gear, for uniforms. She wasn't helping. She was solidifying her claim. At dinner, Lena looked between me and David, sensing the tension. "What's going on?" she asked. I hesitated. David didn't. "Your mother's upset about some old paperwork," he said lightly. My fork clattered against the plate. "Old paperwork that gave your aunt legal power over your future." Without me, Lena blinked. "Aunt Mara?" "But she always helped with that stuff. Remember when she filled out my scholarship forms? She knew how to do it better than either of you." The words cut deeper than knives. My own daughter trusted Mara's competence over mine. That night, I found myself in Lena's room, watching her pack a bag for yet another overnight at Mara's. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "don't you see what she's doing? Every signature, every paper, it ties you closer to her and farther from me. Lena zipped her backpack. Maybe she's just better at being prepared. Why is that so wrong? I swallowed hard. Because it leaves me out. It erases me. She paused, looking at me with pity. No one can erase you, Mom. You'll always be, well, you. But her voice lacked conviction, and when she left, the silence in her room screamed louder than her words. Later, alone in the kitchen, I opened the ledger again. My mother-in-law's neat handwriting mocked me. Trustee, Mara. The ink hadn't faded. Neither had the intent. I scribbled in my journal. Education Trust co-signed with Mara. Deliberate exclusion of me. Foundation for legal precedent. Then I underlined the final line until the pen tore the page. I was never meant to be the mother on paper. David found me there, pen shaking in my hand. Doreen, he sighed. Don't let this consume you. We all made sacrifices. I stared at him, fury simmering. No, David. You and Mara made decisions. I lived the sacrifices. His shoulders sagged. I thought I was protecting us. You weren't protecting me, I snapped. You were protecting her place in our lives. And you've done it so well, she's practically untouchable now. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence told me everything. It was a rainy Sunday when Mara invited me over to talk like adults. I almost didn't go, but the thought of Lena sitting in her living room without me pushed me out the door. Her house smelled of cinnamon and lemon polish. She set 2 mugs of coffee on the table, steam curling between us. Her face was pale, but her eyes steady as stone. I need to tell you everything, she said. Not just about the donor program. About David. About why I never left your side. My stomach knotted. What now? She folded her hands. During those years, the IVF cycles, you weren't the only one breaking. David was too. He almost relapsed. My heart skipped. Relapsed? Gambling, she said flatly. The debts were piling up. Creditors called your house. He begged me to keep it quiet so you wouldn't collapse. I negotiated with them, paid some off. I kept him from losing everything. Her words hit like blows. Gambling, debts, lies layered on lies. You're telling me my husband was drowning us in debt and you were the one saving him? I whispered. Yes, she said. He was weak. I was strong. I stayed close because I knew if I left, you'd both fall apart. I gripped the mug so tightly my fingers ached. So you weren't just the donor. You were the fixer, the rescuer, the one holding all the strings. Her lips trembled, but she didn't deny it. I never wanted power. I wanted to protect you. Protect Lena. Protect? I snapped. Or control. Because from where I'm sitting, you've been running my family like a shadow queen. Egg donor, secret trustee, financial savior. What part of my life wasn't yours to manage? Her eyes glistened. I didn't do it for myself. I did it because he couldn't, and because you were too fragile to handle the truth. The word fragile sliced through me. Fragile when I begged for a child. Fragile when I trusted my husband. Fragile when I leaned on my best friend. And all the while, they built a world where I was the weakest link. I stood, my chair scraping hard against the floor. So what you're saying is, David gambled, you cleaned it up, and together you decided I was too broken to know? And now, after 25 years, you call it sacrifice? Her voice cracked. I call it love. I shook my head. No, Mara. Love doesn't make hostages, and that's exactly what you've turned us into. On my way out, she caught my wrist. Her grip was firm, desperate. Doreen, she whispered, you don't understand? If I hadn't stepped in, you'd have lost everything. David, the house, Lena. You would have been left with nothing I yanked free. Maybe nothing would have been better than living in your shadow. Back home, I confronted David. He sat at the edge of the bed, shoulders hunched, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Is it true? I demanded. The gambling? The debts? The rescues? His silence confirmed it before his words did. Yes, he said finally. It was a bad time. I thought I'd lose you if you knew. Mara, she handled it. She saved me. My throat closed. You let her save you, but not me. You let her be the strong one, the fixer, while you painted me as fragile. He buried his face in his hands. I was ashamed. You should be, I said coldly. That night, Lena came home late. She dropped her backpack on the floor, eyes tired but bright. Aunt Mara told me about the gambling, she said softly. My breath caught. She what? She said she kept it from you to protect you. And Dad, I guess she's been protecting us all along, hasn't she? The room tilted. My daughter's words weren't accusation. They were admiration. I sank into a chair, my legs weak. She's not a saint, Lena. She's a thief. She's been stealing pieces of our lives one by one. Lena frowned. Or maybe she's the only one who ever told me the truth. Her words broke something inside me. That night, I wrote furiously in my journal. Second confession, David's gambling. Mara cleaned it up, hid it from me. Lena sees her as protector. I am losing my daughter's trust faster than ever. I thought betrayal had limits. I thought secrets, no matter how deep, at least lived inside walls. I was wrong. It started at Lena's school award ceremony. I sat in the auditorium, clapping politely as names were called. When Lena's name was announced, I stood, heart swelling despite everything. She walked across the stage, her smile a flicker of the little girl I once held. Then, during intermission, a reporter approached me. Not a parent, not a teacher, a reporter. Mrs. Patterson, she whispered, sliding a business card into my palm. We'd like a comment on the donor documents. They're circulating. My blood turned to ice. That evening, I opened my phone to chaos. Headlines splashed across local feeds. Scholarship scandal? Students' donor origins exposed? Photos of Lena, my Lena, were plastered beside words like anonymous source and confidential leak. I knew the fingerprints instantly. Mara's style was always careful, deliberate. She hadn't named herself, hadn't pointed directly at me, but she'd scattered enough breadcrumbs for others to follow. Lena stormed into the kitchen, phone in hand. Her eyes were wild, her cheeks blotched with shame. Did you see this? She shouted. Everyone knows. My friends, my teachers, they're sending me screenshots. Who leaked this? Was it you? Tears filled my eyes. No, sweetheart. I would never. Then who? She demanded. I swallowed hard. Mara. Her face twisted. You don't know that. I reached for her hand. I do. It's her pattern, subtle enough to look innocent, strong enough to wreck us. She wanted this out. She wanted the world to see Lena pulled back. You're just blaming her because you hate her. Maybe she's the only one brave enough to stop hiding. David walked in, reading the same headlines on his phone. His face drained of color. Doreen, this is going to ruin her reputation. Lena's, ours. Everyone at my office will see this. I spun on him. You care about your office? Your reputation? Your daughter is being torn apart online and you're worried about your colleagues? He slammed his phone down. If you hadn't dug into this, none of it would be public. My breath caught. So now it's my fault? I didn't write those papers. I didn't pay her off. I didn't leak anything. You and Mara did this. The house erupted into shouting, accusations bouncing between walls. Lena's sobs cut through all of it. She slammed her bedroom door so hard the frame rattled. I stood there shaking, the weight of my family crumbling around me. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages from neighbors, coworkers, even distant cousins. Pitying emojis. Half-hearted, "Are you okay?" Texts, every one of them a reminder that my private life had become gossip. On the porch, Helen, my next-door neighbor, approached with a casserole dish. I saw the news, she said softly. I'm so sorry, Doreen. Her kindness only deepened the wound. Pity was salt on an open cut. Later, at Patricia's office, she tapped the leaked article with her pen. This complicates the case. Public opinion can sway judges. Mara positioned herself carefully. She's not demanding custody. She's presenting herself as a biological mother who only wants acknowledgement. Sympathy will be on her side. My chest tightened. And what about me? Patricia's gaze was steady. You'll look like the woman who clung to secrets until they exploded, unless we prove Mara acted maliciously. That night, Mara called. Her voice was soft, almost pitying. Doreen, don't fight me on this. The truth is out now. Everyone knows. Lena will adjust. You'll adjust. It's better this way. I gripped the phone so hard it hurt. Better for who? For you, who finally gets the spotlight? For David, who avoids shame by pointing at me? Or for Lena, who has to carry your war everywhere she goes? Mara's sigh was heavy. Better for all of us. Secrets rot families. Now we can start over. Start over? I hissed. You've destroyed everything. There is no starting over. She didn't argue. She didn't need to. The silence told me she believed she'd already won. That night, Lena packed a suitcase. Where are you going? I asked, voice breaking. She didn't look at me. I need space. Aunt Mara says I can stay with her until things calm down. No. My voice was sharp, panicked. Not her. Not now, she looked up, tears streaming. She's the only one who feels honest, Mom. You still keep things from me. I can't breathe here. The sound of the zipper closing was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. When the door slammed, the house went still. David sat on the couch, head in his hands. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty table where we once ate dinner together. And in my journal that night, I wrote, Mara leaked documents. Public sees her as martyr. Lena left with her. David silent. The house is quiet now. Too quiet. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, but presses down like a heavy blanket. Lena's laughter doesn't echo from her bedroom anymore. David sleeps in the guest room, pretending work trips are the reason for his absence. And me? I sit at the kitchen table every night with a cold cup of tea, staring at the shadows on the wall. Everyone thinks time heals. It doesn't. It only carves the wound deeper. Mara still calls. Sometimes to check in, sometimes to taunt me with her calmness. She's thriving here, she said last week. She talks about college every day. You'd be proud I am proud, but I'll never admit it to her, because Mara didn't earn my pride. She stole it. The lawyers say the petition might pass. The courts lean toward biological contributors, as if genetics matter more than decades of scraped knees, school projects, midnight fevers. The system doesn't measure lullabies. It doesn't record tears wiped away. It records DNA. So I prepare myself for the worst, that Mara will win, not just in Lena's heart, but on paper too. And yet, I haven't stopped being a mother. Every day I text Lena. Some days she doesn't answer. Some days she sends a single word. But I keep sending them, because being a mother means showing up even when love feels one-sided. I sit with my journal, the same one I filled with every betrayal, every revelation. Tonight, I write, I don't forgive the secrecy. I don't forgive the ledger. I don't forgive the transfers at 2 a.m., or the guardianship drafts, or the DNA test Mara mailed behind my back. I don't forgive David's silence. I don't forgive my own blindness. Then I add, but I will not stop loving Lena, even if she never chooses me again. One evening, Helen, my neighbor, came by with a pottery bowl she'd made. She set it in my hands and smiled. You remind me of clay, she said, fragile at first, but once you've been through fire, you're unbreakable. Her words stayed with me. Maybe that's what motherhood really is. Walking through fire and refusing to crack, even when the flames are fed by those closest to you. So if you've stayed with me until the end, maybe your heart has felt something too. Maybe you've thought about what makes a family. Blood, or love, or both. Maybe you've wondered what you would forgive and what you couldn't. If you have, I want you to do something for me. Leave a comment. Tell me if you'd fight until the last breath, or if you'd step aside to protect your child from more crossfire. Hit like, subscribe, and share this story if it touched you, even in the smallest way. Because stories like mine are not just mine. They belong to anyone who has been betrayed, silenced, or erased by the people they trusted most. And here's the truth I leave you with. I may have lost the secret. I may have lost the center of my family, but I will never lose my voice. And I will never forgive the ones who thought they could take that away from me. Thank you for listening to the whole story. I hope you will support my future works.